Hello and welcome to today's episode of Beyond the Broomstick, the podcast that opens up the possibility of spiritualism and really educates you and teaches you what that really means and what to expect from your practitioners, whether it be me, Matilda, or anyone else that you choose to trust on your spiritual healing journey. Thank you for all of those joining me for the first time. If you found me through Patreon or through TikTok, it's great to have you here. And those of you that have found me through Laurie after the live that we did on TikTok, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. Today's episode is going to be talking about the ups and downs of managing a spiritual practice or a spiritual business, if you like, and how we need to be able to set our boundaries. And when you're the product, when I have a business and basically I'm the product, everything that I decide to do impacts my clients. And why, as spiritual practitioners, we need to make sure that our own healing journey is at least most of the way complete in order to bring the best to our clients and not allow the energies that are pulling us to make us feel overwhelmed and sometimes not act in the best possible way. But for now, we're going to thank our amazing new Patreon supporters. For those of you that don't know, I have a Patreon page. It is Medium Matilda at Patreon. You can find the link in the bio here, the show notes, or in my bio on social media. And I have a couple of different levels there that give you access to extra information, extra predictions. There's a podcast that is released only for Patreon members, and there's a chat, there's Discord, which is just being sorted out because I'm not very good at that. I have a lovely lady helping me out and finishing that off over this next week, so bear with it. There'll be a lot more content as time goes by, and we're just building that up, but I'm hoping to build a lovely community where we can all chat about all things spiritual, and you know what, maybe not all things spiritual too. So without much more ado, I'm going to thank my wonderful Patreon subscribers, and again, thank you. Without you, I could not be doing this. It gives me that little bit of extra time to be able to produce a podcast and put extra content onto Patreon. So Kim Brown, Nina Schrader, Ricky, Sam McInnes, Maggie, SJ19, Deborah Oliver, Donelda, Lisa Cifuentes, Tyron, Anae Soris, Laura Brown, Karen Valdivia, Kelly Bollinger, Sharon, Cynthia Johnston, Cynthia Johnston, Sue Clifford, Donna, Kim T, Tony Lindgren, Erin Dixon, Emily, Leslie, aka FBF Champion, Rita Kuzmenko, Saar, and Samantha. Thank you. Your support and trust means so much to me, and I look forward to building that community for all of us to take part in. So today's episode, I really want to talk about how, if you are choosing to set up a spiritual practice, a medium starting out, a psychic starting out, whatever your modality, Some of the tips and tricks I'm going to give you today will give you some insight into what you should be looking at. It's not about teaching you to be a medium, it's about teaching you to manage your energy. And for those of you that are just interested, I'm going to talk about how I have to manage my energy every single day in order to bring the best to my clients. And at the end of the episode, I've got some really lovely stories about some past readings that I've done. That was one of the things that people have asked for a lot. So stay tuned to the end and you will hear a couple of lovely stories about past readings and how me being able to bring through their energy and their love to their loved ones have really helped. So being a spiritual worker, a light worker, an energy worker, whatever you want to talk about or whatever you want to call it, is all about giving your energy to other people in order to help them and to heal them, okay? I'm not here to be a martyr. I'm here to help as many people as I possibly can. And I have the ability through mediumship and psychic ability to do that. I am going to say this right from the start, that I am so grateful that I had a thriving, strong business as a medium before I set up on social media. Had I tried to manage all of the expectations on me, and I can only talk to my story, I am sure there's other psychics and mediums that have taken things to social media and not necessarily exploded the way that mine has, or as far as being requested information, requested readings and stuff like that. But for me, I was plodding along quite happily in my own business. I was very busy. I have a calendar that I worked an average of 20 hours a week as a psychic medium. For me, that was enough. And it still is enough because it's very draining. I have some high-profile clients that I never make wait. They do pay exactly the same as everyone else. But if they're on tour or they're working in a different time zone and they never know where they're going to be any specific day, I'm very flexible around them. But on the most part, I have a strong diary that those are the days that I link in with spirit. And that is on those days I hold very dear for doing all of my spiritual readings, my mediumship, my psychic readings, and those are the days that I tend to bring things to social media. I get driven batty when friends phone me up and want a reading or want me to tap into something when I'm switched off. So I practice incredibly strong spiritual health, because on an average day that I'm reading, I will work for 4 hours, sometimes 5, but mainly 4. And across those days, I will do probably 2 mediumship readings and the rest will be psychic readings. Sometimes it'll be 3 mediumship readings, but that's on a rare day. And that is to conserve my energy. Because if I am constantly doing mediumship readings, I am very, very tired. I do manage my energy well. But what I want to bring to light to everyone is that social media has made what I do look really easy. It's made people think that there's nothing to tapping into your guides and you should be tapped in and answer questions all the time. And that's just not the case. It's also not a Hollywood-esque event. It is a feeling, a thought, a vision. It's a snippet that I am given, and I have to add the little snippets up to work out and translate what spirit are trying to tell me, especially when I'm talking about things like world predictions on social media. When I'm talking to someone's loved one that has passed over, it's very different because they come through with a lot stronger energy, they give me a lot more information, and it's very concentrated. If you can imagine when you sit down to have your reading from me, all of your energy is coming towards me, which is why I say, don't be walking, don't be in the car, don't have your kids running around. You need all of your concentration on me so that that energy is pushing through your spirits so that I can tune into that energy. Anyone that thinks that having a reading whilst they're running for their car or walking or driving or are not focused is not going to get really good information. Anyway, I digress. How I get it is not as Hollywood as it's shown on social media. A lot of these people, and I'm not just talking about people that aren't mediums and pretending and are fakes. I'm talking about people that aren't developed. What they're doing is they're bringing through a lot of their own ego with the information. So they're seeing maybe a snippet and they're going, well, that means this is going to happen because I want it to happen. So they're joining the dots with their own ego and their own information. And it's very, very important that you really concentrate and bring through the right information, whether it's through spirit guides or whether it's through someone's loved one that's passed over. And social media have made it look really easy when they can sit on lives and just answer yes no questions and answer somebody from a comment, and that's not how it is. It's a very high functioning job that we need all our energy for. And for instance, a lot of people think that I can just walk around and I'm grabbing information as and when I want. I have worked really hard over a very long period of time to be able to tune in and tune out the information. Because if I'm out for a walk or I'm at the supermarket, I don't want to be bothered by spirit, because the right people for a reading with me are going to find me. Their spirits are then going to push them towards booking a reading with me. And I deserve a day off just like everyone else. So my average time is working around 3 or 4 days a week, usually 4 hours a day. And that then exhausts me, but I have 3 days to work on my grounding, to work on myself, to work on the business side of things that I do. And I try really hard to remove my energy from what is going on spiritually. I will very rarely do I listen to a spiritual podcast. Do I watch a spiritual show? Do I watch other mediums or metaphysicians work? Very rarely. I went to see John Edward last year, as I love watching him work and I learn a lot from his delivery. But other than that, I steer clear of it because I want my brain focused on something else. So when I first started on social media, which I had a very good thriving business, 20 years in the business, and I took to social media at the beginning of 2023. I stupidly did not close off my diary, and I also stupidly had no idea of the impact of social media. I went onto social media to make to call out badly behaved mediums and spiritual workers, and say that they're not very spiritual for what they were doing. I am not joking when I say that I woke up one day and I was booked for 5 weeks in advance, almost 7 days a week. And I made a decision at that time that because there'd been another psychic medium in the UK that had been accused of taking money and not delivering and messing people around, I did not want to be tarred with the same brush. So I worked my backside off. I literally had to drag myself to bed every night, almost not able to stand up. I have friends that I spoke to at that time and I'm like, I cannot move. I am so tired. And it wasn't the hours I was working. It was the amount of energy I was giving up for other people. And I didn't have any left for myself. I subsequently got really sick, as some of you may know. But what I did is I rallied. I learned a lot better protection of myself, and I made sure that my calendar never, ever overbooked me again. And that was one of the driving forces for me. I want to talk for a second about people that have not healed, doing healing work. And the reason I bring this up is because I do see a lot of it, not just on social media, but in general. And I've been doing this for a long time, and a lot of people will come and they will go, but the reason they burn out is because they're not ready to be doing readings for the public. I spent 5 years developing my ability. I was born with my ability. I knew I had my ability. I had a lot of interactions when I was younger, and I did switch it off for a while. But once I decided that this was what I was going to do, I worked really hard with my guides. They were my trainers and my mentor before I was ready to go to the public. And there's a reason for that. If we do not work on our self-awareness and our ego, we are going to do a massive amount of damage to the people that we read for, because we are delivering from ego and we are delivering things, and we're not self-aware and aware of the impact what we are saying is having on people. Constantly, during every single reading I do, I have to monitor the temperature of how somebody is receiving something. Whether that be mediumship and they're just not ready to receive it, whether it be a psychic reading and they were expecting fluffy clouds and unicorns and that's not what their spirit guides have for them. I am constantly monitoring what I am delivering and whether or not the person can take that information and whether they're ready for it. Because I've learned over time, there's a lot of people that aren't ready to hear what they need to hear, and they just want to hear what they want to hear. I call those comfort readings rather than solution readings. We will have to make a decision whether we want to receive a comfort reading or a solution reading, and comfort is just going to basically glide over the top. It doesn't really involve a huge amount of predictions. It's more of a there, you're okay. Whereas a solutions reading, spirit are literally coming front and center with what you need to address in order to move forward into your life. But if you are unhealed and you are a psychic reader, or you are working on as a healer of any sort, you have no business doing it. You will grow to resent your clients because they're taking your energy, and that energy needs to be going into your healing in order for you to help more people. I didn't have the self-awareness many years ago when I could have been reading and I wasn't. I'm talking about, 20 years ago. I was not self-aware. I thought the world revolved around me. Well, not that much, but I've learnt along the way. And there's a lot of people that do this work because they want to look good and they want the pat on the back and their ego grown. And that is not the reason to be doing it. If you are more concerned about the amount of followers you have, the amount of likes and follows you are getting on your social media, you are an influencer, not a medium. Get off the apps, stop doing what you're doing, and go and put that energy into healing yourself, because you will get angrier and angrier and more burnt out because you constantly seeking the validation of others by putting your energy out there and getting people to work with you. And when that dries up, you are not going to know what to do with yourself. There are a lot of untrained, underdeveloped mediums out there that are doing this work and they don't know how to switch their energy off. It is dangerous, not only because of the information you're giving to people, but also for your own mental health. If you are working as an energy worker, the key is in the name. It's energy. Where do you want to get that energy from? Because your clients can't give it to you. Yeah, they build you up and it is an exchange of energy, but they can't replace all the energy that you're giving out. there has to be a certain point that you need to stop and heal. I've had to really reassess my energy and my availability in the last 12 to 18 months, purely because I think I do a good job. I believe I do a good job, and I am often booked out 6 to 8 weeks in advance, which is great for me, but it's not so great for my clients. I'm sorry, but I can't physically do any more than I already do. And what I have had to do also is I've recently, well, not so recently, but I had to make a decision to bring somebody on board to manage my email requests and social media requests and things like that. And that is purely because I get a lot, I don't know what people think. I don't know why people think, but I am a medium and I earn a living being a medium. I also give a lot of free energy to social media. There is not a day that goes by that I do not receive 2 or 3 emails from people trauma dumping about their life and asking for a free reading or asking for free advice. And I just couldn't do it. I think it's really unfair, but people will be people. And I had to set a precedent up by asking my assistant Carrie to answer all of those emails in a very business-like manner. Because if I see them, I start feeling guilty about what I can't do for people. And then I feel guilty that I charge for readings. Not that I should, but I do in a sense. And I do a lot for free. And I do a lot of competitions where I give my time for free and I raise money for charities and things like that through, win a reading with me, which isn't cheap. It's not easy to get in for. And I will run charitable things like that. But I was made to feel very guilty by people. And it is pretty constant. The inability of people to read a website and information and instructions will never baffle me. So I've had to put Carrie in place for her to manage that, be the in-between person, so that my energy wasn't being taken up in that way, because it is exhausting. I am my commodity. If I get sick or I get overwhelmed, then nobody gets anything. So if you are looking at starting a spiritual business, be very, very careful. Make sure that you have all your boundaries set. Make sure that you have your calendar set to literally what it is you can do. Not like me, silly me, left my calendar open. And also make sure that you have the ability and time to concentrate on your own spiritual health. I recently took a month off. It was great. I don't often take time off, but in Australia, our summer holidays are during the Christmas period, and I decided this year I was going to have a whole month off. My kids were visiting. I got to spend time with the buff, all of those things, and I really needed the downtime. However, the side effect of that is when you are first back reading after a 4-5 week break, it is a muscle that you have to exercise again for the first time in 4 weeks. Do you remember when you go to the gym for the first time and you do leg day or something like that and you can't walk the next day? That's what it's like doing your first mediumship reading after 4 weeks off. I was exhausted that week, and it was only last week. On top of that, I've had a week of getting podcast ready, going on live with Laurie Rivers, lots of things. And I'm about to, tomorrow I'm traveling. I'm in Melbourne and I'm in Sydney doing in-person readings. So it's a busy month. Anyway, by the by, I went back to work and I forgot one of my very, very important spiritual practices. At the end of my day's reading, I always have to ground myself. I need to bring myself back to earth. I need to really concentrate on every movement, everything I am doing for a period of time. It's almost like that if you do an office job and you need to decompress between work and home, you've got that time in the car or when you're traveling. I don't necessarily have that, so I need to make sure that I put time aside to do that. Last week I forgot. Not that I forgot, I wasn't in the practice of doing it. And to say I made silly mistakes is a massive understatement. I decided after 3 days of reading, I was a little bit tired. As I say, a muscle that I haven't used for a while, I had to get back into the practice of it. And when I do switch off, I switch off really, really well because I've learned to do that over years. I decided I was tired. I was going to order some takeout and watch a movie. So I wanted a jacket potato. For those of you in America that's going to come at me and go, "Oh, who eats jacket potatoes?" I'm English. I love a jacket potato. It is comfort food. Did I have potatoes in my house? No. I'm also single, and if I buy potatoes, they grow green sprouty things on them. So all I did was I went on the app, Uber Eats, decided to order myself a potato, and I'm choosing all the condiments, and I want tuna, and I want mayonnaise, and some sweet corn, and a little bit of salad, and all that's really nice. So I get myself a shower, and I get myself all cozy, and my delivery comes, and I get it, and I sit down, and I start the movie, and I put my fork into the container, and I'm like, where's the potato? They've just given me all these condiments. Oh, is the potato in the bag? So I go back into the kitchen and look in the bag, and no, there's no potato in there. And I've got on the app about to contact the people, and I've looked at my order. I forgot to order a potato with my jacket potato. So I cooked up some rice and had it with the condiments, but it just wasn't the same. And no, I haven't bought potatoes since. I forgot. Also, last week, I live at the top of a hill. I've got to go down a really steep driveway and then down another steep, windy road to get onto the main road. It's not far, but it's a pain, and I'm going to pull my car out the garage and blah, 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 blah. Got to the bottom of the hill, about to go onto the main road, and realised that I don't have my phone with me, only because it's not playing my music and it's switched onto radio. Do a U-turn, go back up to the house, get my phone, get back in the car, drive down. I go, I haven't got my glasses on. Have to turn around. And yes, I know I should wear my glasses more. These are prescription sunglasses. Turn around, go back up to the house, get my glasses. The poor dog thought he was going mad because I was coming and going. And I just had not grounded myself since my readings during the week. And I really need to practice that. So there is another tip. If you are an energy worker, ground yourself, start putting some practices into place. I have done the same thing for a number of years. It's just that if we have had some time off, like any job, we forget to go through the processes that we have to go through. So this management of energy really extends to the work that I do on social media as well. So doing this podcast, talking to you guys, having chats on Patreon, that sort of thing doesn't take my spiritual energy. It's just part of my everyday life. But if I go on to TikTok and I load up world prediction videos, I allow for that in my management of my time. When I first went onto TikTok, I was not prepared, with all love and due respect, of the neediness of people on TikTok, because it's like they think that you are a gumball machine just being able to spit out predictions. And that's not what or how I work. And it's also very relevant to the fact that when I do make world predictions, that all comes from my spirit guides. It doesn't come from me. I have very little knowledge of what I'm talking about. The knowledge that I have comes from my spirit guides. And that's why it's so important that people realize that I have no wish to Google information. I don't look at the news. I keep myself really clean when it comes to things like that, purely because I want to give you everything that spirit give me to give to you, in order for you to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Nobody has all the information. And you will see this as you watch. I uploaded a video recently about something that I had made in May last year, and it was regarding Texas. And that is playing out right now in Texas. But it wasn't all the information. It came through exactly as I received it so that you guys would know when it happened, which is now. That's how I get the information. So when people on social media ask more questions, they want more information, they want more in depth, I can't do that. I try. Sometimes I will pick a comment and I will answer it, but I can't just suddenly switch in and out of being a medium in order to facilitate the answers for you guys. And if you look at some of the other mediums on social media, they're just answering them, but they're not answering them from their spirit guides. They're bringing through their own ego. Any medium out there that's trying to push Trump to win next year or this year, no, that's coming from ego. That's because they want people to believe in that. But really pay mind to energy and the energy you pull from a spiritual worker. If you've got friends that are light workers, don't expect them to answer your questions all the time. Be mindful of that. It's a job like everyone else. If you were a doctor, I wouldn't ask a medical question in the middle of having dinner with you, or I wouldn't phone you up when you've just done a 12-hour shift and ask you a question, because that's not how we can do it or serve you the best that we can serve you. If you are setting up a spiritual practice, if you are developing your mediumship or your psychic ability, work really hard on your self-awareness and healing your old wounds in order to serve your clients the best. My job is to be of service. End of. I'm not here to be popular. I am not here to be an influencer on social media, but I am here to be able to calm. A big message from my spirit guides when I started to go onto social media was my job is to bring calm and reason to people around the world. And I'm taking that job incredibly seriously. And again, if you are looking to set up a practice, get to grips with how you deal with your clients. Make sure that you are ready for that before you take it to social media. There are too many unhealed, uneducated, unpracticed, and underdeveloped mediums and psychics on social media that are giving a Hollywood-esque idea of what it's like, that they have the answers to everything, and they're doing damage not only to the clients and people watching them, but also to themselves. I see so many people go under because they're not managing their energy, and it's really important that we educate our clients on energy management and on why we have to manage our energy, to bring the reality out there and to show people that it's a lot harder than you think, and it's not a switch that gets flicked until you have so much practice at doing it. I cannot walk around with my psychic energy out there constantly or pulling in energy from other people, because that's just not good for me. And my clients expect me to be on my A game, and I will always, always work hard to deliver the best I possibly can for every single one of my clients. So now I've had my rant and you're all aware of energy work and how it works. I'm going to talk about some of the most fascinating readings I've done. I'm going to try and encompass a story time about past readings into every podcast, because it's something that a lot of people have asked for. So I've got 2 lovely stories for you that good mediumship, but also the way they played out and how it was almost a physical thing as opposed to messages within me or the presence. I was physically affected by both of these readings. So I hope you enjoy them, and let me know what you think. So one of the strangest, I'm going to say, readings that I have done, which actually had a physical element to it, which doesn't always happen, is a reading that I did actually on Mother's Day. And that morning, my eldest son, Ollie, came to help me out he came over for Mother's Day, obviously, but I had purchased this giant clock, and it was too big for me to be able to lift and put up on the wall. So we put new batteries in it, we checked the time, it was running perfectly, and Ollie and I lifted it up and put it onto the wall, and it was sat there perfectly. And it kept perfect time, because at 6 o'clock that day, I had a reading, 6 o'clock Australian time, I had a reading for somebody in a different time zone. So I actually sat in that room that clock is, which I don't always do, but I just decided to that day for some reason. And I got myself cozy on the sofa and started the call, and I was talking to a lovely lady who had very sadly lost her husband. And he came through right at the beginning of the reading. And he had sadly hurt himself. He was responsible for his own passing. And I brought through, he literally was stood there, and that doesn't always happen. I don't always get to see the person that's stepping forward. I get an energy or I get an impression of them. But this person made themselves really well known during this reading. And during the reading with the lady, we're going through, and he's passing on a lot of information that validated him and his presence. And as the reading went on, it was an hour-long reading. It got to about 10 minutes before the reading would end, so about 10 to 7. And I kept being told to look at the clock, look at the clock. And I looked up at the clock, and it had stopped at 6:30. And I said to her, "Does 6:30 mean anything to you?" And she said, "Yes, that's the time he took his own life." And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry. He just asked me to look at the clock, and the clock has stopped at that time." And she said, "The last conversation we had was around hanging a clock up on the wall." So to me, that's a huge validation, and he was making her aware that it's okay. The argument was an argument. It had no impact on his decision. But he validated so much during that reading, and for it to have an actual physical element is incredibly rare when I'm doing a mediumship reading. Well, I wouldn't say rare, but it's certainly a little bit different, especially when someone's so physically present. And the lovely lady I did the reading for messaged me a few days later and said how much peace that reading gave her and confidence to start moving forward with her life in a way that she didn't feel able to do previously. So that's a really touching thing to hear. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than hearing how much joy and peace a mediumship reading can give to somebody. That was one of my biggest wow moments. And we do get them. I think we would be incredibly unempathetic and unemotional if at times we didn't go, wow, what an amazing message to come through, and how great to give a validation. Another one that I remember, and again, it's something that happened very visibly, and somebody that made themselves very known prior to a reading, was I literally got woken up by a spirit one morning, and I wasn't due to wake up. I wasn't due to start my readings until midday that day, and I was tired and I was in bed, and it was 6 a.m. in the morning, and I felt like I was being poked awake. Now, I live alone apart from Buff, and he doesn't wake anyone up. He will sleep forever. And I was being poked awake, and I couldn't work out why, but when I'm one of those people that once I'm awake, I can't go back to sleep. So I decided to get up, and I made myself a coffee. And this young girl just kept walking into my kitchen, and I'm looking and I'm going, who are you for? Honey, I have no readings until another 6 hours. You're a little bit early. And she wasn't really making me aware of what she wanted or who she was. And she was around 10, 11 years old. So very young. And I kept seeing, and then she kept playing with her hair and almost like imagining it put up into bunches. And then she went away for a while and she came back a little bit later. And my first call of the day, I said, can you tell me, is there a young girl around 10 or 11 that you have lost? And the poor woman just burst into tears. And I talked through what this girl was showing me. And sadly, she had passed away through a form of cancer where she had lost her hair. And I was telling her mum that she kept putting her hair in bunches. It was like first thing in the morning, and she'd woken me up and I was trying to drink my coffee and she kept literally showing me that she wanted her hair done. And the mum just said that was her thing. Every morning before she lost her hair, she would make her mum get up extra early to do a different hairstyle for her to go to school with a different hairstyle. She loved her hair and she wanted to be a hairdresser when she got older. And it was just such a beautiful validation, and being able to tell both of these families that their loved ones are okay after they had transitioned, that they were healthy, that this young girl had her hair back, that she was able to show me how her hair was there, just made her mum's day. Mum was imagining that she would spend her afterlife with no hair and sick from the treatment that she had had. And she just went away from that reading feeling so fulfilled and so happy, knowing that her daughter had the things that she loved and valued in life and was well in the afterlife. So those sort of readings are incredibly important and so valuable to the people receiving them. So that concludes this week's episode of Beyond the Broomstick. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope that some of the information that I've brought to you today is going to help you if you are interested in how we do run our spiritual practices. For those of you interested, pop along to my Patreon, Medium Matilda on Patreon, and you will get some extra content. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok at The Real Medium Matilda. There are some readings available in Sydney for this coming weekend. If you would like in-person readings, I am only there this weekend for the whole year. I do not have capacity to go back, so make the most of that. And currently my schedule is up for March. I believe there are only 30-minute psychic readings available or left available at this stage. Everything else is booked out. April's dates will be coming out within the next week. But I don't like to book too far in advance because it's not fair to make people wait. But I hope that helps. I look forward to connecting with you again next week. For now, lots of love. Take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you all soon.